Hi, welcome to Marvelous Mysteries, the podcast. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Jaden.
And we're going to share some unsolved mysteries that we found today.
Yeah, I'll say mine's not a mystery, but...
Yours is a mystery?
We're sharing some stuff today.
But something spooky, I don't know, conspiracy, mysterious, that along that lines. But first, as normal, we're going to do our icebreakers or whatever, little questions. Okay, so these are like... The ones I found for this week are kind of like questions that I feel like tell you a lot about a person. Like if you're like, are you this kind of person or this kind of person? So like, for example, the first one is like, are you a coffee or a tea person?
I'm tea.
I'm not tea. I'm coffee. I don't really like any tea. I like one type of tea.
I don't like coffee at all. I had it a couple of times, like if it was in something and you couldn't taste the coffee. But it also just makes me, like, I get too, like, shaky if I have too much caffeine. But yeah.
Yeah, I like one type of tea, but I don't really like any. I like coffee. I have a feeling we might be, like, opposites on a lot of these.
Yeah, I'm guessing we'll be.
So, cats or dogs?
I like both, but I would probably go with dogs, because I think I'm also allergic to cats, even though I want one.
I like both, too, but I would probably say cats, because I've never actually had a dog. I've only had cats, and they're just so cute, and I like them. But if I had a dog, maybe I would change my mind. But it would still be hard. So, morning or night person?
Here's the thing. Okay, I do like being a morning person, but just because I work most nights, I tend to, like, sleep in more than I want to. Mm-hmm. I'd probably say morning person if I have the choice to do it all the time.
I don't really know what I am. Because I have a hard time getting up in the morning. Like, I sleep in until the last possible minute, but I still get up at, like, 7, and on the weekends, I still get up at, like, 8 when I sleep in.
Yeah, that's me, too.
So I don't really know what I would call it, because I don't stay up late. Like, I go to bed at, like, 10:30, 11:30, you know, sometimes I can't sleep, but, like, and, like, for work schedules, like, I always want to choose, like, a morning. I'd rather get out earlier, but I, like, and not, like... necessarily like a morning or like do better one or the other, because I don't think I can stay up. I haven't tried to stay up late in a long time, I guess, but
I stayed up until like 3 in the morning the other night, and like
because
I was reading, and so I stayed up, and then it was bad, and I woke up at like 7, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Last night I couldn't fall asleep until 12:30 because my sister worked late, and so she just stayed the night at our house, and so she didn't get out till 10, and then I had to like get her all set up. And then, I just didn't fall asleep till midnight, and this morning I was like, ugh, because I was so tired, because I still have to wake up for work. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I would say more morning anyways, because I think people would consider, like, the things I'm saying as early. Yeah. And, like, morning person behaviors. Do you like sweet or salty foods?
Probably sweet. I really don't like that many salty things. Like, I just don't like salt on my food, unless it's, like, fries.
Or, like, sweet or savory, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on whatever it is. Like, I don't know.
I think, I'm definitely savory, I think. Like, normally, I'm very specific about desserts. Like, I only like certain things. Like, I like chocolate and, like, cinnamon rolls, some cookies. But, like, for most desserts, like, I would rather just have more food than dessert.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would say sweets, because it just in, like, that case, like, I do like to bake a lot and stuff, but, like, I can never, like, consume a lot of sweet things at the same time, so. Yeah,
I don't like frosting, for example. I usually don't like frosting. I do have one thing that's, like, there's this donut, and, like, a cutie, and, it's, like, a cinnamon roll with chocolate frosting.
Oh, okay.
That's my favorite dessert. And that's pretty sweet, I think. But, I don't know. I don't think I would say savory or salty. Oh, and then the last one is, like, are you warm/hot weather person or cold or cool weather?
I'd probably lean toward more of cool weather, just because, like, I don't mind a couple of weeks of, like, summer, but I just get too hot too easily. But at the same time, like, I really like fall and spring. I feel like both of those are a bit more cool weather and stuff.
I like fall, too. I think I would say hot weather, because I can't stand being, like, cold. And, like, It's just super comfy. Although I do like warm clothes like more, like leggings and stuff. I say I like shorts, and like it also depends on my circumstances because I have to dress nicely for work and stuff. So it's like super irritating to do that. But if I just can like live it up in the summer, and stuff, obviously. But I think I'm definitely more of a warm person. I would rather be like slightly warm than cold, I think. Okay. Did I go first or did you go first last time?
I think I went first because mine was really long last time.
Okay, so I go first now. Okay, so mine's the incident at Dyatlov Pass. I hope I'm saying that right. This is in Russian. Like it's a Russian.
The whole article's in Russian.
I'm trying to speak in Russian this whole time. So no, but like it's happened in Russia, so it's a Russian name. So I'm sorry if I'm saying it incorrectly, but it's tricky. So this happened in February of 1959. 9 ski hikers died mysteriously in the mountains of what is now Russia. The night of the incident, the group had set up a camp on the slope, had dinner, and prepared for sleep, but something went catastrophically wrong because the group never returned.
I think I came across this one. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
At one point.
I'm always nervous because I am always like looking up like interesting, unsolved, like interesting mysteries, or like sometimes look like really creepy ones. I've seen this several times when I was looking into things, but yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Plus, I'm trying to do some more like obscure ones because like that aren't murder every single time.
I know. I'm like,
even though that's my interest. But so on the 26th of February, searchers found the group's abandoned and badly damaged tent. The campsite baffled the search party. The student that found the tent said that the tent was half torn down, covered in snow. It was empty. All the group's belongings and shoes were left behind. Investigators said that a single shoe or even barefoot could be followed, leading down to the edge of a nearby woods on the opposite side of the pass. Okay, after 500 meters or 1,600 feet, sorry, I'm like losing my place. The tracks were covered with snow. So they followed the footprints, and then after so many, they became covered with snow. At the forest edge, under a pine tree, the searchers found the visible remains of a small fire. The first 2 bodies were next to that fire, and the bodies were shoeless and dressed only in their underwear. The branches of the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting that one of the skiers climbed up to look for something maybe, or perhaps look for the camp. Between the pine and the camp, the searchers found 3 more corpses. The poses they were in suggested they were attempting to return in the tent. So when they had to find the last 4 travelers, that took 2 more months. They were found on May 4th. But they were found under 4 meters or 13 feet of snow. And they were found like 246 feet or 75 meters further into the woods from the pine tree where they found the other bodies. 3 of the 4 were dressed better than the others, and there were signs that those who had died first had their clothes relinquished to the others. So then like they were wearing each other's clothes. Some of them were undressed. So it's very strange. Then this investigation, a legal inquest, started immediately after the first 5 bodies were found. Basically, the medical examination found no injuries that might have led to their death, so it was concluded that they all died of hypothermia. One of the deceased had a small crack in his skull, but they didn't think it was enough to be fatal. When they examined the bodies that were found in May, 3 of them had fatal injuries. One of them had major skull damage, and 2 of them had major chest fractures. According to the person who did it, the person who did the autopsy, the force required to cause such damage would have had to be extremely high, comparable to a car crash. So notably, the bodies had no external wounds associated with the bone fractures, as like they didn't have any injuries that would show that they had been like hit with such a high force.
Right.
And then the 4 bodies that were found at the bottom of the creek in a running stream of water had soft tissue damage to their head and face. One of them was missing her tongue, eyes, part of the lips, as well as facial tissue, and a fragment of the skull bone. So it's like kind of weird, and that's like kind of gross.
Yeah.
One of them had his eyeballs missing, and yeah.
Because I would expect like maybe like something like cannibalism would happen, but like I feel like
just the eyes.
Just the eyes is like no one would be like,
that's not what I want to eat.
Yeah.
Those grapes. So they thought the injuries though were post-mortem, so after they died, luckily.
Okay.
Because otherwise that's be gross. So the initial speculation was there's an indigenous Mansi people who are reindeer herders local to the area, which like that's cool. Reindeer herders. Yeah. That's a cool term. First of all, but they thought that they had attacked and murdered the group for coming on their lands. And they interrogated 7 of these people, but the investigation indicated that the death like did not support this hypothesis. Also, they're reindeer herders, so like they're Santas.
They're Santa's helpers.
Yeah, so they're not mean.
I feel like they might like, I guess they could like maybe inflict pain or whatever on trespassers, but I feel like they wouldn't have gone so far as to like remove like their tongue and like that seems kind of
so like when I don't know if I wrote this later, but I think that they thought that maybe like animals ate them out, ate the eyes, tongue, but that's just kind of very specific, and I don't think an animal.
I feel like there'd be a lot more like probably claws or something, you know,
like they would just eat the face.
Yeah.
So the temperature at the time was very low, which is -25 to -30 degrees Celsius, but for me, I don't know what that means. So it's -13 to -22 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, and a lot of them didn't have clothes on, as I said earlier. So this is like some of the facts that journalists reported. 6 of the group members died of hypothermia. 3 were fatal injuries. There is no indication of any nearby people apart from the 9 travelers. The tent had been ripped open from within. The victims had died 6 to 8 hours after the last meal. The traces from the camp showed that the group members left the campsite of their own accord on foot. And then this one's kind of weird. There's high levels of radiation found on one victim's clothing.
Okay.
So that's kind of strange. And then, they said that the injuries to the bodies could not have been caused by human beings because the force would have been too strong.
I was thinking, like, before you said, like all their injuries and stuff, I was like, oh, okay, maybe an avalanche or some sort, but, like... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's, like, that's one of the... There's several theories, but none of them are, like, super great anyways, so, the verdict, basically, at the time was, like, they died because of a compelling natural force, but this says that the inquest officially ceased in May of 1959, since there was no one to blame, but it says the files were sent to a secret archive, which is like, And in 1997, one of the hikers' camera was kept in the private archive of one of the inspectors. The film material was donated by the investigator's daughter to the Dyatlov Foundation, and the diaries of the hiking party was in like the government, the public domain is what it says, but I guess it's government. So they exhumed one of the remains, and one of the experts said that the character of the injuries resembled a person knocked down by a car. And then there was something like one of the people was buried in the wrong tomb or whatever, but I didn't go into that one that much because I wasn't sure. But, so basically in February, jeez, I can't say this, 2019, they reopened the investigation. Basically, there's only a few possibilities that they considered: an avalanche, I can't speak today, sorry, like a snow slab avalanche, or a hurricane. And they said there's like no possibility of a crime. So there's like a lot of theories. This is a big conspiracy. Gosh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You had a long day at work.
Yeah, I didn't sleep, as I said earlier. It's like a big conspiracy in Russia. So there's like KGB interference, drug overdose, UFO, gravity anomalies, the Russian version of the Yeti, and there's several different things. But here are the ones that I found that were like the most, I don't know, prominent in like when I was looking stuff up. So the first theory is that it was an avalanche, which is what you said. And it's like the most logical theory, I think, or like realistic or whatever. So that the hypothesis is that the group woke up in a panic and cut their way out of the tent because either an avalanche had like covered the entrance, or because that they were scared that an avalanche was about to happen. They were poorly clothed because they had been sleeping. That's why they were like half dressed.
Right.
And they ran to safety in the nearby woods, hoping that the trees would stop the snow. But in the darkness of the night, they got separated into 2 or 3 groups. One group made a fire, which is why they would have that fire and the remnants or whatever. And the others tried to return to the tent to recover their clothing since the avalanche possibly had passed or whatever. But it was too cold. They froze to death before they could locate the tents. And they said maybe they like saw clothes that were on dead bodies and grabbed them because they were so cold. That's why like some of them were wearing each other's clothes. And they thought the guys, like, the tongue and stuff was removed by scavengers. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know why, like, scavengers would go for, like, your tongue or whatever instead of, I'm guessing maybe your skin's too hard to break through.
Maybe.
But I don't know why they would eat, like...
It just seems like weird points of the body that they would
I know, and, like, very specific. I didn't look at any, like, photos of this or anything, so I don't know how, like, clean it is, but it sounds like a clean thing to remove that or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here's the evidence contradicting the avalanche theory. Oh my gosh. So the location didn't have any obvious... Oh my gosh, sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like, I can't speak. I'm trying to, like, read this, I think, is the problem. Because I'm bad at reading out loud. They didn't find any obvious signs of an avalanche. Apparently, avalanches leave certain patterns and debris over a wide area. The bodies were found within a month of the event, and they were covered with a very shallow layer of snow. Had there been an avalanche, the body, like, big enough to sweep away the second party, the body would have, have different injuries. Yeah, and the bodies themselves would have been swept away as well. So another reason why it might not be an avalanche is because over 100 expeditions to the region were held since the incident, and none of them have ever reported any conditions that might have caused an avalanche. Which I guess, I don't know if that means anything. I'm not like any sort of nature scientist or weather pattern, whatever, but I don't know. But there's like technically dangerous conditions found nearby. But in February, like in April, May, that's when the conditions were. But in February, there was no such reported conditions. So, and then when they did an analysis of the terrain, it said that an avalanche would have gone past the tent and it wouldn't have like come down in the way that they were like that they hypothesized that would get everyone to be in those positions. And then footprints leading away from the tent were inconsistent with someone or a group of 9 people that would like run away in a panic. All the footprints were leading away from the tent towards the woods, and were like consistent with people just normally walking. So the next theory is called a kabatic wind, which I'm going to try to explain science. It's a downslope wind or a gravity wind that blows down a slope because of gravity. It occurs at night when the highlands radiate heat and then are cooled. The air in contact with these highlands is then cooled, because I guess it cools, and then it becomes denser than the air at the same elevation but away from the slope, so then it goes downhill. This process is most pronounced in calm air because the winds mix and the air prevents. I wrote something because the winds mix in the air and prevent cold pockets from forming. I don't know how true that is, or if that doesn't necessarily make sense to me even, but so apparently in 2019 a Swedish-Russian expedition was made to this site, and they proposed that this kabatic wind was possible. They're apparently very rare events, but can be really violent. And in 1978, there was a case in the Inaris mountain in Sweden where 8 hikers were killed and one was seriously injured because of these wind. And the locations were really similar, like the mountain ranges and stuff like that. So the wind would have made it impossible to remain in the tent. So the most rational thing, I guess, for them to do would be to cover the tent with snow and seek shelter among the tree line. Now I'm just trying to read. And it says there's a torch turned. They left a torch on top of the tent, I guess, and they thought maybe they left it there so they could find their way back when the wind was gone. But they thought that maybe some of the hikers created shelters from the wind with the snow. That's why maybe some of them were buried, some of them weren't, but the other ones that's why some of them had these injuries and some of them didn't, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So this next one's kind of creepy, I think, but it's called infrasound. And this was proposed by a book. And that's a wind around that. Okay, I'm going to try to pronounce this. It creates a Kármán. There's accents above the A. So I don't know. Kármán vortex stream, which produced this thing called infrasound, which could possibly induce panic attacks because of the way. Sorry, 1 second. I need some more. Because of the way it sounds. Apparently, the sound generated by the winds as it passed over the mountains is responsible for causing so much physical discomfort and mental stress in the hikers. So because of their panic, they were driven to leave the tent by whatever means necessary and go down the slope. And so by the time they got far down the hill, they would have been out of the path of the infrasound, but they would have not been able to see their shelter, so they wouldn't have been able to get back. Mm-hmm. And he said that the traumatic injuries were a result of stumbling over a ledge of the ravine in the darkness and landing on the rocks at the bottom. 1 second, I need some water.
Oh, good.
So that's kind of creepy to me that there would be a sound that can induce panic attacks.
Yeah.
And then the next one is military testing. There's several more, a few more. So there's speculation that the campsite fell within a path of the Soviet parachute mining exercises. This theory says that the hikers were woken up by a loud explosion, fled the tent in a shoeless, clothesless panic, and found themselves unable to return to supply. So after some members froze to death attempting to endure it, others took the clothing from the dead, only to be killed or fatally injured by the mine concussions. And there are records of parachute mines being tested in the area around the time by the Soviet military. The parachute mines detonate well in the similar air rather than upon striking the Earth's surface and produce similar injuries to what the hikers had, having internal damage with comparable less external trauma, which is what the ones that looked like they had injuries on the inside being held hit by a car, but not very many on the external, it didn't look like they got hit. So the theory concedes with the reports of glowing orange orbs floating and falling in the sky in the general vicinity of the hikers and allegedly photographed by the hikers. So then the theory they say that like animals scavenged, ate that guy's eyes out,
Right.
like the other ones. Some people thought that the bodies were unnaturally manipulated due to a characteristic liver mortis. I thought it was rigor mortis, but maybe I just wrote it down. Anyways, whatever. So photographs of the tent showed that it was like put up incorrectly. Something unexperienced hikers might not have done. So they're thinking that maybe like their bodies were messed with. So they said that like there's possible radioactive like weapons around this, which would explain the radioactive material on the guy's clothes. However, it would have affected all the hikers and their equipment, not just like some of it of the one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then skin and yeah, that's pretty much all of that. There's just a bunch of other stuff that I wrote down, but that's no need. But yeah, so a lot of people thought that it was like the Soviet authorities like covering it up or doing something weird with the military testing, but all the files have been released in some manner that the police had on them.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next one is paradoxical undressing. So apparently when people have hypothermia, this is like this, the official report is that I think that was that it was hypothermia with a combination of like an avalanche, but everyone's like concerned with like why they would undress themselves. And people say that apparently when you have hypothermia, you feel like you're burning, like, or you feel really warm, so you will take off all your clothes, even though you're just like freezing.
Right.
And so like it's indisputed that 6 of the 9 hikers had hypothermia. So like maybe some of the group had this paradoxical undressing, but some of them were able to add layers of other people's clothing. So some of them were able to have this on mine, but some of them didn't. And then there's other small theories. One was like the Mansi people one. But the tribes were peaceful, and then there's obviously no evidence that anyone came into the tent. Another one is that they were attacked and chased by wildlife, but there are no animal tracks, and people think that they wouldn't have abandoned like being secure in a tent. Another one was that a high wind blew one member away.
Oh no.
And then everyone else tried to rescue them, but
Right.
it says that a large experienced group would not have behaved by that, and then winds strong enough to blow away people would have also blown away the tent, because the tent was still where it was. And then an argument said that like there was a romantic encounter that left, it was like all of them, some sort of weird romantic encounter that left only some of them partially closed and led to a violent dispute.
Oh, wow.
But, someone said that like this is probably not likely because the group was just like a regular group. Like they weren't like, it wasn't some weird like sexual group. Like there's only just like some friendly flirting and crushes. There was no drugs in the scene. There's only some alcohol in a small flask, but it was like medicinal alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also the 50s, so like medicinal alcohol. I don't know if like people do that right now, but it's fine. And then there's like the group had even not sworn off smoking cigarettes. So they don't think that like there was this big like dramatic fight where like everyone's naked and like. But like I said, they said the official like investigation says that the cause of death was hypothermia due to a combination of an avalanche forcing the group to leave their tent, combined with low visibility at night. The deputy head of the regional prosecutor's office said it was a heroic struggle. There was no panic, but they had no chance to save themselves under the circumstances. So that's the incident at Dyatlov Pass. Dyatlov Pass? I don't really know. But, yeah, so they don't really... It's kind of weird. Kind of solved, but kind of like...
When did this happen?
1959.
Okay.
So, especially during then, it's harder. And then, of course, just weird stuff could happen up in the mountains. And, like...
Right.
Like, an avalanche could happen. And then it was, like, a few weeks, yeah, because the first night of February 1959, February 1st, is when it happened, and it was like several weeks had passed before they found the first group of people. So stuff just could have happened up there that, like, we don't even...
Right.
Couldn't have predicted or known, so... Or it was just aliens. But yeah, that's all I have for mine.
Hold on. My shoulder's really itchy. Okay, so mine is actually an urban legend.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought it'd be interesting.
No, that's interesting.
My water just splashed me. So this is called the Bunny Man.
Ooh.
So it originated from Fairfax County, Virginia in 1970. But then, like, it kind of, like, spread out into, like, Washington, D.C. and stuff like that. But, so the first, I think it's, like, the first two instances happened in 1970. But, so the legend has, like, many variations of, like, what the person or whatever you want to call it looks like. But most involve a man wearing a rabbit costume who attacks people with an axe or a hatchet.
It's like...
Also, yeah.
Have you ever seen Donnie Darko?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, there's the guy in a bunny suit in that. Although that's, like, weird science fiction. But it's still creepy.
I was also going to say real quick, this is pretty short. Like, I found 2 articles, but, like, I didn't look that much into it. But, like, at the same time, I was like, I really don't know how much information there usually is in urban legends.
It's like, are these articles, like, what's the word? Reliable? That's not even the right word. You know what I mean? Like, remember in school where you had to, like, look at articles and test, like, whether they were, like, reliable, like, actually good ones. I don't know if those articles are correct for urban legends.
I don't know. Okay. Anyways, so most of the stories occur around the Colchester Overpass, which is a southern railway overpass spanning Colchester Road near Clifton, Virginia. And sometimes referred to as Bunny Man Bridge.
Bunny Man.
So, sorry, I'm trying to, like, okay, so a lot of the legends, vary in, like, his actual name, like, the weapons that he uses, like, the costume, the motives, all this. And in some accounts, victims' bodies are mutilated. In other versions, the Bunny Man's ghost or aging specter is said to come out of his place of death each year on Halloween to commemorate his passing. Because, like, some legends are like, oh, like, he's like a ghost almost, I guess.
Okay, so some legends say he's a ghost,
Or, like, he's, like, a real person.
Okay. That, like, has been alive all this time? Or, like, someone takes over the bunny
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, so, okay, so, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where to start. Okay, so...
No problem.
2 incidences were of a man in a rabbit costume threatening people with an axe. And like I said, this happened in 1970. Although I think this one looks like it's the first one happened like Burke, Virginia, I think. So the first incident was reported the evening of October 19th, 1970 by U.S. Air Force Academy cadet Robert Bennett and his fiancée, who were visiting relatives on Guinea Road in Burke. So around midnight, while returning from like a football game, they parked their car in a field on Guinea Road to visit an uncle who lived across the street from where they were parked. And as they were sitting in the front seat of the car, with their car was running and everything like that, they noticed something moving outside the rear window. Moments later, the front passenger window was smashed. There's a white cladded figure standing near the broken window. So, like, the the cadet Bennett, he turned the car around while the man screamed at them about trespassing, including, like, this is a quote, he says, like, "You're on private property and I have your tag number." And as they drove down the road, the couple discovered a hatchet on their car roof. And so, like, when the police were, like, asking for a description of the man, Bennett was like, he was insisting that he was wearing a white suit with the long bunny ears, but his fiance was, like, saying that he didn't have bunny ears on his head, but it was just too dark to see his face, and so they couldn't even determine, like, his race or anything.
Right.
And so that was the first report. The second report happened 10 days later on October 29th, when a construction security guard approached a man standing on the porch of an unfinished home in Kings Park West on Guinea Road. Phillips, which is the man of the security, or the name of the security guard, said that the man was wearing a gray, black, and white bunny costume and was about 20 years old and about 5 feet 8 inches tall. And the man began chopping at a porch post with a long-handled axe, saying, "You're trespassing. If you come any closer, I'll chop your head off." So, there's that. And so the Fairfax County Police opened up investigations on both incidents, but, like, there wasn't anything they could really do because there was such a lack of evidence, because nobody actually knew really anything about it other than just the bunny costume or esque costume. So the weeks following the incidents, more than 50 people contacted the police claiming to have seen the bunny man, and, like, a lot of newspapers were including it, and, like, reported the bunny man had eaten a man's runaway cat, which I don't know how they proved. So yeah, that's a little bit of that, and there's some more in a second. But so, like, the Colchester Overpass, which is where the Bunny Man Bridge was built around 1906, just to kind of, like, give you a, I guess, background information on that kind of.
Okay.
But anyways, and the interest usually of like the Bunny Man always happens on Halloween, so.
Okay.
Anyways, so this was another article that I found. I don't know the name of the person because it's written in first person, but I didn't notice the name of who wrote it. So it was just like, I'm, and stuff like that. But anyway, so this person was talking about how they met a journalist, and this journalist had heard the Bunny Man legend as a teenager growing up in Fairfax County. And the story that he tells is that in 1904 there was an asylum not far from the bridge. Clifton residents didn't like the idea of mental patients near their new homes, so it got shut down, and all the patients were taken by bus to Lorton Prison. But the bus swerved and crashed. They were able to locate all the inmates on the bus except for one. So the escaped mental patient was named Douglas Griffin, but after the crash he disappeared. And weeks passed and rabbit corpses began appearing in the woods, and he was apparently eating bunnies to stay alive, and that went on for a while. And then one Halloween night, a group of kids were hanging around the bridge, and they reported seeing some sort of bright light or orb. And then there was a flash, and they had all been strung up like the bunnies, gutted and hanging from this bridge. So a lot of people were thinking that the mental patient was the assumed killer. And there was a rumor that no, that's not important. Don't cancel that out. So anyways, so like the theory of the guy, the escaped mental patient being the killer, sounds very likely. But like at the same time, it's like it probably didn't happen because there was never an asylum in Clifton. And another thing was that in 1904, it was an awfully early time for buses to be on roads.
Okay. Yeah, that is early.
And so, but, yeah. So, there was a guy that started kind of, like, going to figure out what the actual truth was. And his name is Brian Conley. So, Conley was an archivist for the Fairfax County government. In the 1990s, he worked for the county's library system as a historian, and people kept coming in asking if the Bunny Man was real. And he was like, he kind of just got tired of saying, like, constantly just being like, I don't know, type of thing. So he went out and started trying to, like, uncover anything, whatever. And so he discovered in 1970 a couple was parked in a driveway not far from the train overpass when they had a terrifying encounter. And this is like a quote he said. He said, "Someone appeared very quickly, yelled something having to do with the trespassing, and threw a hatchet at the car. They didn't get a good look at the person. All they really got was dressed in white or light colored clothing. It may or may not have been something on his head." And I don't know if that was the same couple from the first article I read. I'm assuming so because, like, that's how it's explained. And then when the story made papers, that something on his head became bunny ears. Like, if he's actually having it, became bunny ears. And then after that, the whole story kind of morphed and, like, kind of became, like, this whole thing. But yeah, so, like, within a few years, people were, like, swapping stories about a man in a bunny suit chasing kids through the woods with a hatchet.
Okay.
The version that the journalists heard involved a guy eating bunnies, but it just kind of got misconstrued over time or over the years and stuff like that.
Right, so this is an urban legend. It's like, remember a few years ago when there were all those clowns?
Yeah, like in 2016.
Was that 2016?
I think
I don't
so.
remember what year that was even, but I remember, like, the people actually, like, I think it started as an urban legend, and then kids just started doing it, like, to joke and stuff. And
Yeah.
I think, like, I remember driving and stuff, and I was like, if I see a clown, like, I'm just gonna run it over. I don't care if it's a student or anything, because they deserve it for scaring me and running at me. Like,
Yeah, I know. That's
what this reminds me of.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, like, where I ended it, because, like, it's probably, like, the guy Connolly, he was, like, a lot of people are, like, convinced it's a story and that it's true, but then, like, himself and other people in the county are thinking that it was probably trying to cover up something else.
Okay.
Yeah, but, yeah, that clown thing was weird. Like, I think it was 2016, or maybe it was before that, because I thought I mentioned it, like, kind of recently, and someone I know was like, oh, because I think that's, like, when the new It movie came out or something.
Okay, for some reason, I thought it was around the time that, like, because I remember, because that show, American Horror Story.
Oh, maybe.
Like, there was a clown in it, and I thought that that's why, but I don't remember when that came out, like, what year exactly. Right. But it doesn't matter, because still, I knew I was going to run over someone if they came at me as a clown.
I know, like...
And I wouldn't feel bad, even if they were, like, if I killed them, I would feel bad. But, like,
yeah, but
if I
injured them.
If I just hurt them or scared them or whatever, I wouldn't feel bad.
Yeah, I know, I freaking hate clowns.
You hate them?
I've like, even, like, the ones where they're supposed to be, like, funny and, like, happy, and, like, no, you're freaking terrifying. Like, why would I ever find you happy?
Yeah, they are kind of creepy, and, like,
I mean, I guess it depends on how hardcore you go with, like, the makeup and stuff, because, like, there's some that I'm like, okay, obviously, like, you're not creepy looking, I just don't like clowns.
Yeah,
and there's others that are just like, ugh.
I think it's because of, like, all the clown movies, like It and stuff, and then also, like, John Wayne Gacy used to dress up as a clown. He was, like, yeah, like, to entertain the neighbors and stuff. Like,
I would hate that.
Yeah, like, because he was, like, the good neighborhood guy, so I'm always like, you're a clown. Like, I'm, like, naturally suspicious. Like, but I'm sure just people are clowns because they like why you would be a Disney princess that goes to parties, maybe. Yeah, but I don't think
like there's a different vibe that goes with each of those.
It's probably because I'm like it's a man, so I'm scared. Usually, women can be clowns.
Women can be clowns too. Just in our instances, they're usually guys.
Yeah. Yeah, but also I think they're just like out, like not really like in style anymore. I don't know if that's the right trend. Like you don't have.
They're not a trend anymore.
Yeah, like they don't do that really anymore. Like have clowns at a kid's birthday party or anything,
Yeah.
I think they hire other people if they even hire anyone. No, I never hired anyone for my birthday party.
I only had like one birthday party. That was like with other people.
I had one, but my parents, after a certain age, they would just give me the money for the party instead of a birthday party.
Oh, so you could plan on yourself and stuff.
No, they would say instead of a party, I'll just give you cash. And so I did that. But I did have one birthday party in 3rd grade. That was really cool because I had like a lot of people over and I had a chocolate fountain.
Wow.
And that was I remember that birthday party like really specifically for some reason. Because of the chocolate fountain, I think.
I remember a birthday party that I had when I was younger. It was like I think I only had ever had 2 where I actually invited people over. And like the first one that I had, I was friends with like girls. I was friends with like people that didn't really get necessarily along with each other, but like they were fine once they were here. But then, like, a lot of them liked being outside, and a lot of them didn't like being outside. So, like, while we were outside playing tag, the other people would, like, sit on the porch and watch us. And I felt really awkward.
I was really dramatic. I had, like, this thing, I would call them girl parties, where we'd, like, invite all the girls in my class to something. Like, I had one at the end of the year, but there was always this drama. And then, in one of them, I had everyone to come over, and, like, one girl broke the knobs off my piano, and then, like, these two girls got in a fight, and I was like, you guys are just kind of ruining my girl party. And I was, like, 7. Like, I was in first grade. Like, this isn't, like, teenager or even, like, older. I was, like, really little.
You're like, you guys need to go.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
yeah,
that's all we have.
have.
You can follow us on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, or you can subscribe to wherever you're listening this to. Wherever you are listening to this. How come I can't say that correctly?
I don't know, that's fine.
Whatever you're on, and however
wherever
you're listening to this, you can subscribe and like and leave comments, whatever.
Just to do the whole shebang.
Do what you want. But we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, okay.
Bye.
Bye.